So Lakshmanacharya, very in Sanskrit he composes very beautiful meaning. So the refrain that we always sing, Raghupati Raghava Rajaram Patita Pavana Sitaram. The refrain translation is, the Lord of the Raghus, the descendant of the Raghu dynasty, King Ramachandra, the purifier of the fallen, glories to Sri Sri Sitaram. The first verse of that song goes, Sundara Vigraha Megha Sham Ganga Tulasi Shaligram. The beautiful deity forms are dark as a thunder cloud. Glories to the Ganga, Tulasi Devi and Shalagram Sheila. Bhadra Girishvara Sitaram, Bhagata Janapriya Sitaram. The auspicious Lord of the mountains, Sitaram. The ones dear to the devotees, Sitaram. Janaki Ramana Sitaram, Jaya Jaya Raghava Sitaram. The beloved daughter of Janaka, all glories to Sitaram, all glories to the descendant of the Raghu dynasty, Sitaram. So this is the original song, but we won't sing the whole thing. We'll sing the refrain so we can glorify Lord Ram. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Raghupati Raghava Raja Ram Patita Pavana Sitaram. Raghupati Raghava Raja Ram Patita Pavana Sitaram. Raghupati Raghava Raja Ram Patita Pavana Sitaram. Sharam Patita Pavana Sitaram. Sitaram 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 Jaya Sitaram. Sitaram 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 Jaya Sitaram. Raghupati Raghava Raja Ram Patita Pavana Sitaram. Sitaram 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 Jaya Sitaram. Sitaram Jaya Sitaram. Raghupati Raghav Raja Ram Patita Pavana Sita Ram. Shri Shri Sitaram Lakshman Bhakta Hanuman Ki, Shri Shri Radha Radhanath Ki, Dasarata Nandana Shri Ram Ki Jai. So we're going to read from Srimad Bhagavatam and then explain. The class today is titled Setting the Scene and the Background to Ram Navami. On Saturday we had His Holiness Bhakti Chaitanya Swami Maharaj who began the introduction to Ramayana. Yesterday we had Champak Lata Mataji who spoke about the childhood pastimes of Lord Ram, Balkand. And although this topic ought to have come perhaps earlier in sequence, but still is very important to understand the background as to why Lord Ram appeared. So we're going to read from chapter 9, at least canto 9, chapter 10. And we will read verse 2. Before we do that, let's do the invocations to Srimad Bhagavatam. Narayanam namaskrityam naram chaiva narotamam devim saraswati vyasa tato jaye udhiraye nastaya prayashu abhadreshu nityam bhagavati sevaya bhagavate utama shloke bhakti bhavate naestuke. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Canto 9, Chapter 10, Text 2. Tasyapi Bhagavanesha Shakshad Brahmamayo Hari Amsasena Chaturaghat Putratvam Prartita Surahe Rama Lakshmana Bharata Shatrugna iti Samgyaya. The translation by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada is as follows. Being prayed for by the demigods, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Absolute Truth Himself, directly appeared with His expansions and expansions of the expansion. Their holy names were Ram, Lakshman, Bharat and Shatrugna. These celebrated incarnations thus appeared in 4 forms as the sons of Maharaj Dasarath. The purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Lord Ramachandra and his brothers Lakshman, Bharat and Shatrugna are all Vishnu Tattva, not Jiva Tattva. The Supreme Personality of Godhead expands into many, many forms. Advaitam, Achutam, Anadi, Anantarupam. Although they are one and the same, Vishnu Tattva has many forms and incarnations. As confirmed in the Brahma Samhita 539, Ramadi Murtishu Kala Niyamena Tishtan. The Lord is situated in many forms such as Ram, Lakshman, Bharat and Shatrugna. And these forms may exist in any part of His creation. All these forms exist permanently, eternally, as individual personalities of Godhead, and they resemble many candles, all equally powerful. Lord Ramachandra, Lakshman, Bharat and Shatrugna who being Vishnu Tattvas are all equally powerful, became the sons of Maharaj Dasarath in response to the prayers by the demigods. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangam Langayate Girim Yat Kripatamaham Bande Shri Guru Dinatarinam. So in the advent of Sri Ram, the Srimad Bhagavatam is describing that Lord Ramachandra came together with his expansions, Bharat, Shatrughna and Lakshman, and they all Vishnu Tattva. So these four expansions are actually the Chatur Vyuha. When Krishna desires to create the material nature, he expands as Mahavishnu. He expands as Balaram, and Balaram expands as a Chatur Vyuha. Vasudev, Pradumna, Aniruddha and Shankarshan. And from that first Chatur Vyuha comes a second set. From the Shankarshan of the first Chatur Vyuha comes a second set of Vasudev, Pradumna, Aniruddha and Shankarshan. So therefore in the purport Srila Prabhupada is translated, Ram comes with his expansion and his expansions of his expansions. So Vasudev is Ram, Prabdumna becomes Bharat, Anirudh is Shatrughna, and Shankarshan is Lakshman. So this is the understanding of this verse. But we want to try to understand today the background to Ram Navami. So Ram Navami, Navami is referring to the calendar date. We are counting in Sanskrit, Astami, 8 day, like Krishna Astami, 8, Navami, 9, Dasami, 10, Ekadasi, 11, Dwadasi, Trayodasi, we are counting. So Navami is 9th. So the 9th day, in the waxing moon period, does Lord Ramachandra appear. So we are not focusing today, I'm not focusing today on the appearance of Lord Ramachandra, but the reasons that were engineered in the background for Lord Ram's appearance. So we go back to the Leela, or to the beginning of creation, where Lord Brahma was instructed to create this material nature, and then create progeny who would populate this nature. Because after Lord Brahma creates a material universe, then he has to populate it with species, so he needs the progeny to actually do that. So from him then comes his progeny, the Manasa Putra, from his mind. So many progeny appear. Narad, and particularly related to what we're discussing today, are the 4 Kumaras. So the 4 Kumaras were eternally youthful. They were celibate. Lord Brahma instructed them that they should create progeny, but they refused because they were enjoying the bliss of liberation and they did not want to get entangled in the material nature. So they were liberated souls and they could traverse all over the universe at will. And they desired to see Lord Narayan. So they traveled to Vaikuntha Lok. And they traveled and they entered to the planet of Lord Narayan, and they passed several gates. 7 gates it's described, and then they came to the last gate, the central abode where Lord Narayan actually resides. But there at the gate were 2 gigantic guards who had the four-arm form very much like Narayan. So that is one of the 5 forms of liberation. This is Sarupya. Sarupya means you can get liberation in the form of the Lord. The others are Samipya, Sharsti, Sayujya, like this. But Sayujya is impersonal liberation, so devotees don't want that. But here, those who worship Narayan in awe and reverence, they can get these types of liberation. So standing at the doorway with these huge guards with a mace, and when they saw the 4 Kumaras entering, they immediately came together and put the mace down to block the way. So the 4 Kumaras immediately became perturbed at that. Oh, who are you blocking our way? This is meant to be Vaikuntha, free of anxiety, free of disharmony. And you are seeing enemy and friend, and you're blocking the way. How can this exist in Vaikuntha? You immediately fall down to the earthly realm. Jai and Vijay became remorseful, and they immediately apologized. My dear Brahmanas, we did not know. We are terribly sorry. Please forgive us. Please withdraw. The Brahmanas said, we cannot withdraw, the curse has been pronounced. And as they were speaking, Lord Narayan appeared at the doorway, and he understood everything that had transpired, because of course it's his plan. And when the 4 Kumaras saw Lord Narayan, they became stunned, astounded at his beauty and his presence. And they offered beautiful prayers and they begged forgiveness. But dear Lord, please forgive us for our rash behavior. You please retract this curse. Lord Narayan says, the curse has been pronounced, I cannot retract it, but this is appropriate for Jai and Vijay. This is appropriate punishment for them. Because I shall take responsibility for their behavior. So Lord Narayan is setting the example that when anybody in your family or in your institute creates the wrong behavior, then the head accepts the responsibility for that. So Lord Narayan said, no, I beg your forgiveness. He's actually asking. So Narayan then said he'll modify this curse. And then thus he asked Jai and Vijay, will you accept 7 births as my devotees or 3 births as my enemies? So Jai and Vijay are devotees of the Lord, and they immediately understood the Lord's desire, that the Lord likes to sport, but there's nobody in the creation that will sport with him because he's so powerful. Nobody will take on that role to fight with him. Nobody dare do it. Right? We see, you see wrestling and all of these sports. People like to box, pugilism, the pugilists. They like to, but they have a desire to do that. They like to fight. And, in the wrestling you see, they like to even get beaten up. And so these original desires for sporting is coming from Krishna. The living entity has it in minute quantities to enjoy here. So Krishna likes to sport. So Jaya and Vijay understood his desire, and therefore they accepted. Oh my Lord, we shall take birth 3 times as your enemies. And also they knew they'll come back quicker. 3 births instead of 7. So many millions and millions of years in this nature. Rather go back quickly. So they accepted. And immediately Jaya and Vijay fell down from the spiritual world. So in the meantime, one of the great sages produced by Lord Brahma, the Sapta Rishis, one of them is Kashyap Muni. And his consort is Diti. So Kashyap Muni was doing his evening puja. Great sage Kashyap, offering his puja. When Diti was very afflicted by her desire to unite with him sexually. And she approached him while he was doing his puja. And he dissuaded her. He said, no, Diti, this is not the auspicious time to do this. And it's the evening also, Sandhya time. And Lord Shiva with all his bhutas are traversing through the universe. And they are looking to plant these souls into wombs because they want to become liberated from their very distressful condition of being ghosts and hobgoblins and pisachas and witches and so on. You see, Lord Shiva is very, very merciful. And therefore, these living entities who have no shelter anywhere else, they take shelter of Lord Shiva. That's why Lord Shiva's one of his names is Bhutanath. You have so many names for Lord Shiva, but one of his names, by his quality of mercy, Bhutanath. He's the Nath of the Lord of the Bhutas and the Pisachas. So he dissuaded her, but she insisted and insisted. And being a husband, he fulfilled her desire. But he was not at all pleased. And after this union, Diti was remorseful. And she very regretfully approached her husband, knowing that some inauspiciousness will befall. And certainly, Jaya and Vijay appeared in her womb as Hiranyaksh and Hiranyakashipu. So this is also in the Treta Yuga, the beginning, early part of the Treta Yuga. And of course, we're not focusing on the pastime of Lord Varaha and Nishingadev, but Varaha and Lord Nishingadev, they vanquish Hiranyaksh and Hiranyakashipu, respectively. So after that birth and death, then they take birth again the second time. And now they take part, now they enter into Lord Ram's Leela as Ravana and Kumbhakarna. You know the story? So many Ramayan scholars are there. We are not scholars of Ramayan. We are trying to repeat what Srila Prabhupada taught us. You see, in Srimad Bhagavatam, in this Canto 9, Lord Ram's pastime is described in 2 chapters. And in the next verse, the 3rd verse, you'll see Sukadev Goswami, who's the speaker of Bhagavatam. He tells Parikshit Maharaj, my dear king, Parikshit, you have heard many pastimes, many recitations of Ramayana. But you should only listen to the Ramayans that are narrated by the Tattvadarshis. Tattvadharshina, those pure devotees who have seen the truth. So this is a warning for us too, because there are many, just as there were so many versions of Bhagavad Gita, and Prabhupada produced his Bhagavad Gita as it is, so there are so many versions of Ramayana. And Prabhupada explains in the purport of that 3rd verse that some are imaginary or just material sentiment. So therefore we have to understand. So Sukadev is a bona fide speaker He is a Tattvadarshi, and he's reciting in a summary form the Ramayana, Ram Leela, to Parikshit Maharaj. And therefore he describes now how Lord Ram and the expansions appear, the Vishnu Tattva appears. So here we hear about Ravan and Kumbhakarna appearing in this world. So Pulatsya Rishi had a son, sage, Vishrava, very powerful sage. And his first wife was Ilavida, the daughter of the spiritual preceptor of the demigods, Brihaspati. And from Ilavida comes the son, Kuvera, the treasurer of the demigods, and a devotee of the Lord. Jai Shri Shri Radha Radhanath ki, Shri Giri Govardhan ki, Shri Shri Nitai Gaura Hari ki, Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki. So they also just closed, giving us half an hour before the next Aarti. So Ilavidha was the mother of Kuvera. But there's a great demon known as Sumali. And Sumali had a daughter, Kaikeshi. Don't mix up with Kaikeyi. Kaikeshi. And Sumali decided that he would like to form an alliance with Vishrava for the sake of obtaining more power. And he will get his daughter married to Vishrava. But in a deceitful way, he arranged for their meeting, and Vishrava was seduced by Kaikeshi and then married. So, having impregnated her, then he found out the plot, and Vishrava was very, very upset. So he cursed Kaikeshi, because you're coming from this lineage of the demons, all your children will be demons too. Lots of cursing goes on in those days. Powerful words, powerful sages. So Kaikeshi became the mother of Ravana, Kumbhakar, Shuparnaka, and Vibhishan. But Vibhishan is a devotee. How is that? So, we can talk about Vibhishan if we have some time, and how he was a devotee. But let's just talk about Jai and Vijay appearing as Ravan and Kumbhakarna. So, Kaikeshi then begins to instill the seed of envy against Kuvera. So, Ravan, Kumbhakarna, Shuparnak, they all began to perform austerities, severe austerities to gain power. And who do they try to appease? Is Lord Brahma, head of everybody. You know, they appease Lord Brahma. They perform austerities to get his boons for immortality, because they think he is immortal. Lord Brahma lives for so long. What is Lord Brahma's lifespan? 311 trillion and 40 billion years makes one day of makes the lifespan of Lord Brahma. So Lord Brahma lives for a long time, and therefore he appears by our standards to be immortal. Those who witness say, oh, he's immortal, let's pray to him for immortality. So they perform some austerities. So Ravan, he asked for immortality, and Brahma says, I cannot grant that, because I myself am not immortal. So these demons, they try different tricks to try and trick Brahma to give immortality, just like Hiranyakashipu did. So he asked to be invincible from all the gods and the demigods, the devas and the gods. And in his pride and conceit and arrogance, he did not ask for protection from the humans and the animals. Because he thought, they have no consequence. Right? Mistake. So, Kumbhakarna asked for immortality, but again couldn't get granted. So he wanted, in Sanskrit, Nityatvam, eternal life, Nityatvam. But Saraswati, knowing that if these boons are granted to Kumbhakarna, he will be so invincible that nobody will be able to destroy him. So he wanted the throne of Indra, Asan, the seat of Indra, Indrasan, Nitratvam, eternal life, and the throne. So Saraswati bewildered him, and he got tongue-tied. And instead of saying Nityatvam, Indrasan, he said Nidratvam, Nidrasan. Nidra means sleep. So he asked for the boon, I want to sleep. So Brahma said, granted. And then he became angry. He said, no, what is this? You're cheating. You're cheating me. You're cheating me. I performed all of these austerities. You should be granting me the boon I asked. So Brahma said, the boon is granted. But we'll modify. You'll sleep for 6 months. You'll stay awake for 6 months. And you'll eat in that 6 months. So Kumbhakarna, that's how he used to fall asleep. Fall asleep, couldn't be roused for 6 months. And then when the time came to rouse him, then Ravana would send his army, rouse him. And then they would army, elephants, bugles, trumpets, and they would fire arrows at his body to create a little pain so he can wake up. And when he felt those arrows, then he would rouse from sleep and he would turn and crush half of Ravana's army with that also. So Ravana and Kumbhakarna, this is how they actually entered. And Ravana, because he was granted such power, he thought he was invincible, and therefore he would now start to conquer the universe. He conquered all the demigods. He took over the heavenly planets. And he would seek combat. He fought with Kuvera. And he stole Kuvera's Pushpaka Vimana, the transcendental airplane. The flower airplane. Pushpaka Vimana. Vimana means like a flying craft. Vimana. And Pushpaka, flower. And it could travel at the speed and direction of the thought. Wherever you desire to go, Vimana would take you. So Ravan had that beautiful aircraft and he was flying. Together all his army was flying behind him, and you can just imagine the scene. All of the demons in the sky like a cloud, and there Ravan. Ravan is described as a very handsome person also. So in the front, very beautiful Ravan, and then all the demons behind him, Pisacha and all of his witches and everyone. So he would fly, and then wherever he would hear the sages praying, chanting name of Vishnu, he had sworn, enmity to Vishnu. So he would come there and send his demons, and they would defile the yagya pits, the yagya kund. They would pass stool. They would come down and scream, shriek, and disturb and even kill and eat those sages, because these were cannibals. So the demigods and the sages were all very distraught, and they began to pray to Lord Brahma for help. They would always approach Lord Brahma. So Lord Brahma would go to the Svetadvip island of Svetadvip, the milk island, or the island in the milk ocean, which is in the upper part of our universe. And there he would then pray with the demigods to Lord Vishnu, please help, please help. So Vishnu explained to Brahma, yes, you go and you take birth on the earth. You take birth in the form of monkeys and bears, and I shall come. I shall come as the son of Dasarath. So may have time, may I not have time for Dasarath. So there's like 5 stories in the background that I'm trying to intertwine very quickly, right, to try and give the background to Ramayana, why Lord Ram came. So Ravan was on his exploits, was on his conquests, and as he was traveling over a forest, he saw one very, very beautiful maiden in meditation. And she was dressed in the cloth of an ascetic. She was dressed as a Brahmani, hair in the top knot, deerskin, sitting on the deerskin, cloth over body. Ravan, as much as he was powerful, that's how much of lust he also had. And he was a lusty, lusty person, lusty demon. So he then saw this. He asked his army to wait in the sky while he came down with his Pushpa Vimana and alighted. There he changed his appearance into a human, and he approached this female, this Brahmani. I just want to read that a little bit. Such a wonderful explanation given by, written in the book called Ramayana by Krishna Dharma. And Krishna Dharma very humbly says, retold by Krishna Dharma. Ravan saw the young ascetic girl sitting on a flat piece of soft grassland surrounded by wild flowers. She glowed with a golden beauty. Her limbs were exquisitely formed and her full breasts were covered by a black deerskin. Ravan could see the contours of her body through the thin cloth covering her. Dark locks of thickly matted hair hung down to her waist, framing her white complexioned face. Her red lips moved slightly as she intoned the sacred syllable Om. She was in meditation, right? Her smooth golden arms were bared in front of her as she sat with folded palms, her long curling lashes covering half-closed eyes. Ravan's mind was overpowered by lust. Who was this youthful lady? What was she doing in such a lonely place? Did she have a protector? Never mind. He would soon deal with that. The forest was no place for such a maiden. She would make an excellent addition to his other consorts. So Ravan, beside conquering the kings, he was also conquering women, and he had a harem full of thousands of beautiful women. So unsatiated was his desire. So by his mystic power, he assumed a human form and approached the girl. He spoke loudly, disturbing her reverie. "Oh, most beautiful maiden, who are you? Why are you practicing asceticism in this lonely region? To whom do you belong? What fortunate man has you for his wife?" The demon was unable to resist the charms of women, and he was possessed by increasing desire. The girl fully opened her black eyes and looked at Ravan. Seeing him as a guest in her hermitage, she spoke respectfully, telling him her name. I am Vedavati, the daughter of a powerful sage, who was himself a son of the god's preceptor, Brihaspati. I was born as an incarnation of the holy Vedas. My father was sought by numerous gods and other celestial beings who wished to have my hand in marriage. However, none but Vishnu, the Lord of all the worlds, can be my spouse. Therefore I am seated here, absorbed in the thought of the Lord and awaiting His favor. Vedavati had meditated for thousands of years, her body like that of the gods, neither aged nor required any sustenance. She could understand by her own inner vision who Ravan was and what was his intention. In gentle tones, she said, only Vishnu can be my husband. So she gave him a veiled warning. Do not approach me. I've given myself to Vishnu. Ravan should then, continue on his way. But Ravan laughed again. He was not going to leave her, this jewel of a woman, behind. Hearing the name of Vishnu only made him more determined. His voice boomed like thunder. Your resolution to practice austerity befits only old women. O lady of shapely limbs, why do you waste your time fleeting your youth in this way? I am Ravan, the lord of the Rakshasas. Become my wife and live with me in my capital, Lanka, the golden city I have forcibly seized from the gods. Who is this Vishnu anyway? Ha! So, I think I can do a good Ravan because I have those qualities. Ravan laughed again. He was not going to leave her alone. So what did he do? He stepped forward and he grabbed her hair. But Vedavati, being pure, having her own mystic power, she immediately uttered some mantras which cut through her hair, leaving Ravan bewildered with his hair in his hand. And she said to him, "O evil one, I shall now quit this body defiled by your touch, as I have been insulted by you. I shall take birth again only for your destruction. Appearing from the earth, I shall become the pious daughter of a virtuous man. You and your entire race will be destroyed as a result of that birth." Vedavati then closed her eyes and invoked the fire, Agni, within, and she self-immolated into a burst of flame, leaving behind only a pile of ashes, leaving Ravana a little stunned and bewildered. But then, he was used to all of these goings on in the universe, so he didn't focus too much, and he said, so the demon thought, "Ha! What need I have to waste time? Only one woman, there are many, many who would be with me rather. So let me not." He ascended his Pushpa Vimana and then flew through the skies. So now you can see the demigods and the Brahmanas were praying to Krishna to appear because they were being persecuted by the demons and Ravana. So that's one reason. And another reason now is the curse has been uttered by Vedavati. Vedavati, the personification of the Vedas, the daughter of the Vedas. All right, so she says, And she utters the curse that your downfall is now predicted because you have defiled me. Therefore, you will be destroyed by your desire to possess the woman. And who shall I appear as? I shall appear from the earth as the daughter of a virtuous king. So Sita appears from the furrow when King Janaka was one day out, and he finds her in the furrows of his land. And therefore another name for Sita is Janaki. Janaki Vallabha Sita Ram Dasarata Nandana Jaya Siya Ram. Right? Janaki, Janaki. So Janaki is Sita. So two reasons. So in the meantime, Dasarath, the great king Dasarath, who fought on the side of the demigods, who could fight 10 chariots at once, Dasarath at once, so powerful, 10 chariots, Dasaratha, 10 chariots, could fight them. He was always asked by the demigods to help whenever they were encountering difficulty. So this Dasarath, who was married to the 3 queens, who were they? Kaushalya, Kaikeyi, Sumitra. Unfortunately, his queens were barren and he had no heir to the throne. So, in the meantime, then, he was making the arrangement with the great sage Rishashringha to perform the Pusta Kamesti Yagya. Putra Kamesti Yagya. Putra means child, right? So the Yagya to produce offspring. So we leave Dasarath and his queens who are arranging that and go back to Ravan. So Ravan began, after this episode at Vedavati, he got on his chariot and he began traveling north to the Himalayas. And as he traveled to the Himalayas, his chariot was checked by the presence of a very powerful looking being. But in Ravan's eyes, he looked very, very ugly. This being stood there with his mace and his spear at the foot of the Himalayas and said, "Oh, whoever you are, please desist from going any further. You are not allowed to enter into the abode of Lord Shiva. I am Nandishvara, the servant of Lord Shiva, and I'm protecting." So Ravan said, "Who is this Shiva?" Nandishvara explained how powerful he is, and you're certain to be destroyed if you attempt to go any further. And because Nandishvara appeared like this, in this, form that Ravan insulted him. "Oh, monkey-faced one, move out of my way." So Nandishwar felt insulted and said, "Because you are insulting me, there will be a race of monkeys who will destroy you." You can see this, dice is not loaded in Ravan's favor, right? Everywhere there were curses, curses, curses. So here, so Ravan, still not listening, decided that he would try to move, because he wanted to go further north and the Himalaya is in the way. So he'll move this mountain out of the way. And he'd step aside. He put all his arms under the Himalayas and began to move it. And there, as it tilted up on the top, on the mountain, the summit, was Lord Shiva and Parvati. And Parvati, immediately the mountain started moving. She became afraid. What is this? It's a quake. What is it? So she ran to Shiva. Please protect me, my Lord. And Lord Shiva said, do not fear, my dear Parvati. This is some insolent person trying to prove his valor. And Lord Shiva, just while sitting on his asan, used his toe and just pressed down slightly with his toe. Like that. And the mountain crushed the arms of Ravan, and he got pinned with pain. He could not move. So Ravan was stuck for 100 years of his time. So his henchmen, all his demon ministers, told him, please appease Lord Shiva with your prayers. Appease him, otherwise you will not get released. And he began to offer prayers. Ravana began to offer prayers and prayers and prayers for 100 years. And eventually Lord Shiva, he relented. Lord Shiva is also Ashatosh. He's easily angered, easily pleased. So as Ravan was appeasing him with his prayers, he became pleased. And then he came down. And Ravan was actually pleased to see the one who was victorious over him. Because Ravan felt, right, he was invincible. And now he was defeated. So, understanding the power of Lord Shiva, he began to ask Lord Shiva also for boons. So this is how Ravan became benedicted by Lord Shiva. See? So Ravan then went on his way with all of these boons from Lord Shiva. So I'm going to cut it because there's so much detail, but we got 5 minutes. So as he was passing, Ravan was passing, he passed over Ayodhya. And it's explained that in a previous life, Ravan was in another life, another body. He was defeated by some of the ancestors of Ayodhya. He was very humiliated by that. So as he flew over, he remembered his humiliation. So now being all powerful, he landed at Ayodhya, and King Ananaranya was the king, a descendant in the Raghu dynasty. He began to defend Ayodhya. So, great battle took place. Huge battle took place. And eventually, Ravan defeats Ananaranya. And in that dying breath, the king utters that you have stated or think you are invincible. But in the future shall come a race of humans who will defeat you. So now you see the story, how it ties. Because when Lord Ram appears, then he takes on the Nara Leela. Because Ravan had asked for protection from the Devas, and he called them gods and demigods and heavenly denizens. But he didn't ask. So, Sita appeared. Lord Ram appeared in his Nara Leela. And the monkeys and bears appeared. Lord Rama told them, take birth as monkeys and bears. But that fulfilled the curse of Nandishvara. Sita's appearance, the curse of Vedavati. Ananaranya king, his curse, humans. all tie together to ensure that the arrangements are in place for one who thinks is invincible, like Ravan, to be defeated. So the reasons, there are some other reasons, and we'll conclude that we spoke about the demigods and how they prayed. And therefore we see in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya cha duskritam. Protecting the devotees, sadhunam. I come. Millennium after millennium I come to do that. So it's a fulfillment of that prediction. It's also explained that once Mother Sita was complaining to Lord Ram that here in this spiritual world, in this Ayodhya Dham, you're always surrounded by all your ministers, and even Ananta says she's always there. You know, we don't have any privacy. She saw some lady on the earthly planet just alone with her husband, and she said, we don't have any privacy, so let us also find the Leela somewhere there's privacy. Jai Shri Shri Radha Radhanath ki, Shri Sita Ram Lakshman Bhakta Hanuman ki, Srila Prabhupada ki. So we now make the concluding point. So, therefore Lord Ram satisfied her desire to be alone with her for 14 years in exile. So all of these reasons, all of these arrangements are in place, and therefore the class was called Setting the Scene, the backdrop to the appearance of Lord Ram, Ram Navami. Shri Ram Navami Maha Mahotsava ki, Sita Ram Lakshman Bhakta Hanuman ki Jai. So now we'll have Gora Arti led by the